Welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Texting. It's your girl, Shade. Hey, bitches.
It's your girl, Charles Pinky.
I didn't know we were singing and I'm not prepared. It's Glenn. Oh, I kind of sang.
That was melodic.
Welcome to Black Girls Texting. We are Chelsea Pinky and Glenn Bedside Barat. We're here. We're excited. And we're ready to leave things on read or reply.
Yes, we are. Oh, child. I just remembered the thing that I wanted to leave on red and I just got overwhelmed.
What?
Let's just hop in, child. This whole Jordan Neely situation.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, can you explain?
Yes. So Jordan Neely was a Michael Jackson impersonator. This was an incident that happened in New York this week. I believe it was around the Broadway Lafayette station on the F train. He had been performing on the train for several years, and in recent years had just come upon really hard times, suffering from homelessness, mental illness. And at this particular day, it was actually on Monday, the day of the Met Gala, which I find there's some irony in. Yeah. Right? Like while we were all looking at fancy rich people flooding New York City and like, for the purposes of funneling tons of money to the Metropolitan Museum, there's a houseless Black man suffering from mental illness on the F train. And he gets on the train and is telling people how he has no money, he has no food, he's like at his wit's end, he's ready to die, he's ready to be arrested, he doesn't care, like he's fed up. He throws his jacket down on the ground, and somehow that is perceived as a threat to this white former Marine who's on the train, who then goes and puts him in a headlock to perhaps restrain him. I don't know, but the headlock lasted for 15 minutes and the man died. He murdered him right there on the train in front of people. 15 minutes. That's what I read. 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Oh, that's
15 minutes. And people assisted in this. And it highlights so many things for me. Like I mentioned, like the irony of that happening on the day that people are thinking about all this extreme wealth in New York City. And people talk about how like the train is this great equalizer that, everybody in New York has to get on the train. But really it highlights like the extreme disparities in our city, and that there's so many people who are suffering so much that are living on the train. And then these other folks, myself included, that get on the train and kind of, we've always been taught to ignore people when they're going through it on the train, right? Just mind your business. But this man was in distress. And then add to the level, not only were people, this man did not ignore him and mind his own business. He definitely did not try to help or show any compassion. Instead, he considered this man a threat and killed him. And there's been all this talk recently about like how unsafe the city is. So I think a lot of people are also like so on edge, and we're just living in like fear of each other instead of thinking about how we can take care of one another. And it's further complicated though by the fact that there have been incidents in New York City on the subways where like an everyday pedestrian just commuting to and from work, or there was an incident where a man was going to brunch with his friends and was just shot out of nowhere, point blank, by someone who also was having like a mental health crisis. So it's like super complicated, right? Because we don't want to, the answer is not to kill somebody that's going through something on the train, right? But then people feel genuinely afraid. And our city hasn't come up with a plan that makes sense to actually provide adequate care to people in our city that are suffering. And I mean, the more and more, like when I'm on the train, when I'm up around like 34th Street, Times Square, like it's intense. Like the city is really, like there are a lot of people in crisis. A lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you like laid it out that way.
Yeah.
About how complicated it is, because I was starting to have feelings when you were telling the story of, I've definitely been on the train and been scared. Like somebody's screaming, they're saying things, and I'm like, I don't feel safe. I don't know if this person is just, internally dealing with something, or if this person's going to start punching people in the face, because
Yeah,
that has happened in New York City on
totally.
the train. So I'm glad you laid out the complications. A post that I saw that I um that it resonated with me was someone wrote, Jordan's murder is the latest example of what happens when cities increase rent, strip its citizens of basic services to survive, and punish the poor, labeling them as crazy criminals deserving to die. Nobody on the train stepped in only to record and watch a Black man die again on camera. The last
Yep.
sentence, I wouldn't step in. If I'm being totally honest, I'm not stepping in because I'm protecting myself.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
can
he
I
does
add
not
to that?
deserve
I
to
think we
die.
speak as the term from the perspective of women, especially.
True.
There's like a different kind of fear that I walk with in the city, that we all walk with in the city, too. And I agree. I wish I could say I would have stepped in. Well, I hope in the moment, like when you're watching somebody, like they were killing this man, like
Right. When you said
you
15
know,
minutes, that was
right?
okay, get off of
Yes,
him.
exactly, correct.
That's a long time. And
Yes,
I saw that it wasn't just, and then of course there's the aspect of race, white man, Black man. But I also saw that there was like a Latino man that
yep,
was also
like
pushing on
helping.
him. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. That's just really sad and it's really tragic. I definitely think whether or not I understand those people's intentions, they need to be handled because they killed
absolutely.
someone. Yeah, it's really sad. Oh, yeah, it's fucked up. It's fucked up.
It's bad. Yeah, I'm like, what
That's
do I
so
have to
sad.
offer some levity here?
Right.
What can I reply
A little
to?
joy.
I don't know. Um, well, you know what? I'll say it again. I talked about it on the Patreon, so if you're a patron, you can listen to this. But we had a super fun night out in the city this week for the Met Gala, which again, I just found a lot of irony in that all these things were happening on the same day. Also, really quickly, speaking of all this irony with the train and wealth in New York, seeing Carisha and Diddy on the train, like posing like they thought it was like a cute little like to be ironic, like ironically taking the train when like they don't have to take the train like everybody else does, and can like do photo ops on the train and get off. Like the week that a man was killed on the train. I don't know. Something about that was just all crazy to me.
Oh, yeah.
But I did go out
Little
in
taste of
celebration of
regret.
the Met Gala and went to Janelle Monáe's after party and had a ball. The celebrity sightings were crazy. Probably the one that shook me the most was seeing Billie Eilish. She is so gorgeous. Her eyes are insanely blue. Ah, and she was just chilling. We were standing next to each other on the
Wow,
line for the
recent.
bathroom. Oh my God, shut up.
It was tough.
Coveting blue eyes. No, they're
Right.
like ice blue, and her hair so dark. It was just crazy. Yeah, I had a ball, and it was also super sick to be in a room like that with all these incredibly like famous people, but just watching the way they engage with each other, just like they're just in community with each other. They all just happen to be like brilliant and talented. But I feel like that when I'm in the room with like our peers, and I
I was
just was
about to
looking at
say,
them like,
you're not there.
we're next.
We're next. We are
Yep,
next.
we just need more bread. That's it.
A little more bread coming our way.
Exactly.
Um, I love that. Yeah, I definitely, when we were talking about this offline, I hit up Flo and I was like, definitely going to plan to be in New York next Met Gala because apparently people are on lists and shit. I'm going to be there.
Correct.
um,
Correct.
but that's nice. I'm glad you guys had fun. It did look fun. I'm not sure if I'm leaving it on red or replying. So Pusha T's wife, girlfriend, I think wife, Virginia Williams. It's kind of been blowing up on Black Twitter, but she was asked, you know how you can ask questions or you can be like, ask me anything on Instagram. People just ask
Mm-hmm.
questions. So someone asked her, was it hard dating a celebrity in the beginning? How do you handle it now? So I want you to go ahead and Google Pusha T's wife, Virginia Williams. So you can just, get a physical image. Her response was, if I'm being honest, initially the only thing hard about it was being okay with being the oddball in the room, not looking like a quote unquote rapper's girlfriend or wife. I used to feel awkward amongst the women who had the fake asses, bodycon dresses, and cake face. But for a while now, I've thought I'm way cooler. Hair flip emoji.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I find it, it's so interesting. I've seen her before, and I've thought to myself like, wow, she's like such a regular looking girl, like very
Yeah.
pretty, but
Yeah.
she looks like the girl next door. I guess is the phrase. She looks like the girl next door. Now, I always get there is like this thing where like the natural girls are like shading the girls that have work done, and I feel like that
Mhm.
is where we just don't like because I don't actually hear the girls that have work done say anything to the girls that don't have nothing done. I've never
They
really I
do.
don't that I
They
think
do.
do they
They'd be like, "You guys look regular." Yeah, like, "You look
mm,
regular. You could do this, you could do that. Put some weave, put some lipstick." And here's the thing,
but no,
I
but from
think
the other
she's
side though
beautiful.
from the other side though the natural girls will be like you're trashy da 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 like anyway go ahead, you think
Yes,
she's beautiful
for
and
sure. I think she's beautiful, and I do think it probably takes a lot of courage to when you have the money to not fall into that, especially if that's not truly what you want. Like I think there are some people who are doing it because they think they have to and they have to like put
mm-hmm.
up some sort of image, and she hasn't fallen victim to that. Of course there are people who get BBLs because they just fucking feel like it. I know. But I just thought it was shady. I thought her response could have been um speaking to how she, she kind of felt like the oddball, but like now she's grown into herself and she doesn't really feel that way anymore and she's confident in who she is. And that could have been
And
it
leave it at that.
without talking about
Yeah,
fake asses and cake face.
that's super interesting. Yeah, and then there's like assumptions that people make about these women that do present themselves like that, right? Like, oh, she's just a groupie. Like, but then you're right. Some people do just they come up on some bread and then they get all the work done,
Yeah. And
and
some
that
people
doesn't
because
mean yeah,
they've always their whole life they've felt
exactly.
insecure about their butt. And so now I have money and there's a technology to make me have a butt, so I'm gonna get it.
I'm gonna get
What's
some
wrong with
butt.
that? Yeah.
I'm gonna get some butt.
Um
That was the AO moment.
hey yo. Pause. Just kidding.
Ah.
Um, and so that was a red slash reply, and I have another red slash reply, another social media moment. It's been going pretty viral. Ebony K. Williams sat down with Iyanla, and Iyanla basically asked, "Would you date a bus driver?" And Ebony said, "Well, only if he owned the bus. Like, I'm not just dating a bus driver." Then in the week following, she was co-hosting The Breakfast Club with some of our faves, the girls from
Mm-hmm.
Horrible Decisions, Mandy and Weezy. Um, and on the episode, it kind of went even further because she was saying that she thinks this like culture of quote unquote mediocrity and averageness is white supremacy at work. And
Mm,
it just started this whole debate
mm.
about, is a bus driver mediocre? Is a bus driver quote unquote average? Et cetera, et cetera. And so I'll share my thoughts. I definitely think we should be striving for, the most, to have the most resources and to, kind of change our social standing. But I do think the miss is there are so many people that are working these quote unquote average jobs that are brilliant and just didn't have the resources. And I feel like the comment kind of shits on the fact that we know to be true, which is Black communities overwhelmingly are under resourced. So, like, it's going to be difficult for every Black child to go to Harvard, you know? I don't know if I'm
Mm-hmm.
stating that clearly, but I'm still grappling with it. How do you feel?
Yeah. I think and DJ Envy, he went back and forth with her about it and he was like, these blue collar people that you're calling mediocre are the people who support me. Like he's like, these are the people, the bus drivers listening to me right now, listening to the
Right.
Breakfast Club right now as they're like on their way to work or whatever. And I think our society operates because there's people who do every job, and there are many bus drivers that take pride in what they do, and that is not like, I'm just going to keep using this same analogy. That's nothing to turn your nose up at or down at. Like, bus drivers are like integral. They're helping
Right.
everybody get around the city and go where they have to go. You don't have to
Essential.
own the bus driver. Yeah, that's an essential worker, period.
Right.
During the pandemic, you saw who was essential and who was not. And these people sitting around with their little cushy ass tech jobs, doing nothing but taking calls and pretending to do work and getting paid mad money, right? I'm like, okay, look at a couple people I know, sometimes on a given day, myself included, making bread, sitting in my house, and there's people actually, there's a garbage man doing the job nobody else wants to do, but it needs to get done. Like, we don't need to be shitting on people like that, and there's nothing mediocre about it. And I actually think when she's saying white tools of white supremacy or whatever to like keep us down, I sometimes think this, like, that it's a white supremacist mindset to think that you have to just be in these like C-suite high ass jobs making bread. Like, that something like, what are we aspiring to? Like, you know, we're aspiring to just, I don't know. Like, I think the thing that people should be aspiring to is like the most fulfilling life for themselves and the most joy that they have. And they should be able to feed their families and, you know, have the care that they need. And I think the thing that Black people want or should have is just the opportunity and the ability to choose. And like, that's it, you know, and just have a fair playing field. And like, some people might not want to own the bus company. Maybe somebody wants to be a bus driver. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
But maybe we'll invite Ebony on and we can talk more about it.
I think we might have to. We might have to.
Is your hotline
blinging? I mean,
oh, well, mine is kind of.
Yours is? Oh, let's go.
Yeah, my hotline is blinging, my other group chat, because they're all getting together today. And literally they put in the chat, see you guys tonight at 7, can't wait. And I put a sad face. And they put, we will miss you. And it's I mean, it's happened before, but it's just, you know, you have those moments of, damn. So
I know.
today that did happen.
I know. I was thinking about you this week because so much has been happening. There's just been like events and things. I'm like, damn, our girl is really in LA, not at these things.
Yeah. And I'm, you know, like, not complaining, but you know, we're just far from each other. But
or
yeah,
just,
I'm excited
it feels,
for this
I was gonna say, I noticed the distance. It's like, wow, she's really like all the way over there.
But I'll be back in June. Yeah, excited for the Black girl doing shit.
All right, y'all. It's time for the group chat.
We are so excited for this week's Black Girl Doing Shit. We have Olamide Olowe. She is the CEO of Topicals. I know you guys are familiar with the brand already. We are huge fans here at Black Girls Texting. Olamide is a recent graduate of the University of California, Los Angeles, where she was a pre-med student and received a BA in political science with a concentration in race, ethnicity, and politics, and a minor in entrepreneurship. In 2015, Olamide co-founded the beauty brand Shea Girl in partnership with Shea Moisture. Sundial Brands, parent company of Shea Moisture, was later acquired by Unilever in 2017. Currently, Olamide is the founder and CEO of Topicals, as I mentioned, one of our faves. It's a skincare company transforming the way people feel about skin through effective products for eczema and hyperpigmentation. Olamide is passionate about harnessing the power of culture, technology, and science to improve the relationship between women of color and the beauty industry. She has received notable recognition from Harvard Business School, Google, and many, many more, including UCLA, where she graduated from. And now she is this week's Black Girl Doing Shit with Black Girls Texting. So we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I want to first jump before we get super casual. I do want to learn more about topicals and kind of the inception of you starting a brand that has resonated with so many, specifically Black women. I know everyone can use the brand, but specifically Black women and our skin concerns. Why'd you start it? And tell us more about it.
Yeah, so partially when I get that question or when I think about it really deeply, it's honestly so amazing to me that people who don't know me support me and support the brand. I think when you are, I've seen this quote now like a couple of times on social, but like shout out to people who like pull an idea like out of basically like thin air and like bring it to life because it's like a spiritual thing because
Mm.
it's amazing to be able to create something and not know exactly the needs of other people, but for them to connect so deeply with it because I just feel like creativity is a universal language. And so I'm really honored that Black women specifically feel like they have a place, a home at Topicals, and that women
Mm.
also of other ethnicities do as well. But Black women have really been left out of skincare specifically. And so it's exciting that a brand like Topicals can offer products that work for our skin tones. Topicals is a skincare brand transforming the way people feel about skin. We do that through effective, science backed products for chronic skin conditions and mental health advocacy. People with chronic skin conditions are 2 to 6 times more likely to experience depression and anxiety. I'm really excited. We've donated over $112,000 to different mental health organizations since we launched the brand. And I
Wow.
think the reason why we chose mental health as like our social give back is because of my own personal experience with, when you have a pimple, when you have a skin condition, when you have eczema, like my little sister did, you end up having to cancel like outings. Like my sister didn't go to prom because she had a really bad flare up the night of prom.
Oh.
I remember not wearing a swimsuit for the longest time because I had ingrown hairs and I just didn't want people to think I
Mhm.
was dirty. And so
Mm.
there's a lot of like mental health issues that come along with how we like show up in the world. And so for me, I really just wanted to make a brand that felt like holistic, not just
Yeah.
about, helping you have less flare ups, but also like thinking about how your mind is also impacted by your skin condition.
Wow, that's
Wow.
amazing synergy. I've never. It's interesting. If I feel it feels like people would make that connection on the back end, but it's really interesting that like that was within the inception of your brand, and even uh, giving back was already a part of like the core of your business. Yeah, I mean that's super relatable
Yeah.
too when you think about just how skin issues can just hinder the way you live life. Like I had tons of like scarring from mosquito bites on my legs forever. So I would never want to wear shorts
Mm.
in the summertime or bathing suits or stuff. Or I would want to tan like insanely to even out my complexion. And over the years and over lots of times of fading creams and like getting my legs to a place where I feel comfortable being able to go outside now in the summer and feel free, it's a completely different experience than I ever had like growing up, you know? So that's super
Oh my
Yeah.
relatable.
God, I never knew that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because, like you're saying, people don't tell these stories, right? Like on Instagram, again, I love a good filter too. I love a good like I think that's the thing about topicals too is like people think that I should be the spokeswoman now for like, oh, don't wear makeup, don't use filters, don't whatever. Like topicals has always been about choice and
Mm.
really about sharing your story because I think so many people don't know that about you, right? And so we want people to feel comfortable with being able to tell their stories, but at the end of the day, we want to give you information to make the best decision for yourself. That can be the decision to want to cover all of your acne and cover your scars, or it could be the decision to go without any makeup. Like it's really about choice. And I think so many skincare brands either lean into you have to love yourself regardless, no matter what,
Mhm.
or you like should cover up and like let's make your skin perfect. Some days no makeup, some days all makeup. Today for me is an in between day. I'm only wearing concealer, but I just think women are pressured so much to look a specific way or behave a specific way. And you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm.
So I love that Topicals is really just about whatever it is that you want to do that day, that's up to you.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I see it in like you all's marketing. Like I feel like the ads have different types of skin. So I guess a question I have for you is to you what good skin is or what healthy skin is.
Mhm.
Yeah, skin can't be like moral, so it technically can't be good or bad. That's like
Mhm.
one kind of conversation we've had a lot with our community. We actually did a campaign in 2021 in January, and it was called "What is Good Skin?"
Mhm.
And kind of the content of that campaign was just this idea that skin literally cannot be good or bad because it's not moral, but that good skin can look like any kind of skin because good skin is healthy skin, skin that is doing the job. It's your largest organ. So it's like whatever job that your skin is doing, that is good skin. That is like, we can give that skin a star, right? A gold star. And so for us, it's just reminding yourself that the destination to clear skin is not as important as the journey. So that's really to us what good skin is.
I wanted to go back to something that you had mentioned earlier about like having ingrowns and thinking about like healthy skin and good skin and this association with like dirtiness with hyperpigmentation. I don't know. I wonder if, do you have those kind of conversations in the rooms that you were in when you were developing your product, and how we kind of combat that or reframe our thinking around that?
Yeah, there were so many conversations we had because a lot of this is very like political. Shout out to my like degree in poli-sci, because so much of what we believe we're socialized to believe. So like you mentioned, this idea of dark spots, which is actually just your skin protecting you, right? Producing extra melanin because there's some sort of injury that needs to be healed in the skin. For us to then, because we don't understand the science, equate that to dirtiness is like wild. And then taking it a step further, the lengths people will go to get rid of that, right? So like bleaching creams. I'm Nigerian, and so bleaching creams are a huge part of like the culture in Nigeria. And so like I've seen videos of people literally like almost like just not shaving their skin off, but like almost peeling their skin off with like different ingredients because they want to be lighter. And we obviously know that like colorism and like lighter skin tends to get better treatment, gets married easier, is chosen by men, gets the job. And so it's just a very deep place. But with topicals, while we did have those conversations while we were creating the products to make sure we didn't have, you know, those kinds of ingredients and those kinds of effects, really the question we asked ourselves when we were building the brand was, what if skin was fun instead of being so deep? Because I think that's the other thing too, is like Black women already carry a lot. It's not that serious. My friend Nandi from Essence always says that like it was never that serious. And like while it is, it's like there has to be some sort of joy in the room with us as we're doing other things, especially like skincare and beauty. So while we balance the like societal effects of things, we also want to have joyful conversations as well.
Yeah, I mean, we see that totally in your branding and the colors, and it's, you know, very Gen Z, as I've heard people say about the brand. Yeah, but it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh. Yeah.
Thank you. It's so interesting when people call us Gen Z, because like I am technically Gen Z. I'm on the older cusp, but like I'm Gen Z, and I know, right? It's so
Girl.
interesting. It's interesting because it's like, am I really? I actually think Gen Z is a psychographic, though. I don't think necessarily like it's a demographic or an age. I think Gen Z is people who are going against the status quo, creating their own luck, creating their own fortune. They're people who want to stand up for others. They want to create good things in the world, because that's what Gen Z is, right? And you don't have to be under 26 and under to be able to be considered Gen Z in my mind. I think about, I don't know if y'all have seen the I think it's called the Retirement House, and it's like those older people who like are on TikTok and they like do all the TikTok trends.
Oh yeah.
Like
wait,
they're Gen Z in my head, because is your grandmother learning all the rap songs and singing them? No, she's not. Right. And so it's so interesting, again, like they know how to use TikTok better than some Gen Zers. And again, it's just this idea that Gen Z can be a psychographic, so a way of thinking versus just a specific age range.
I like that. So look at that, Chelsea. You can be Gen Z.
Chelsea is Gen Z, because Chelsea, you're the same age as me, I think. So
yeah, same.
So
same age. No, I'm 30, girl.
Look at her claiming it.
But it's just like so beautiful, and I wonder, because you mentioned you have a little sister.
I do, and she works at Topicals too. She does like education.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
because I do wonder, you know, not saying that we're super old or anything, we're not, but I do think we kind of grew up a little differently than the kids growing up now, who are inundated with all these images of filtered faces and, you know, photoshopped pictures of this like idea of perfection. Do you ever have those conversations with your younger sister and other young people in your life, and even your friends, because you're a bit younger than us, about how those images affects your self-esteem and like self-image?
Yeah, I mean, we do have those conversations because you always want to get people to like snap back into reality of like okay, it could be filtered. And again, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with filtered images per se. I think that like it's okay to put whatever version of yourself out there. I think it's just everyone needs to realize, okay, this is not normal, right? Like skin has texture, skin has like pores, skin has all these other things. And so I think that just having the conversation with people to almost give them like a gut check about the world is a lot more helpful than saying like, oh, let's ban filters, let's X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, let's just have a conversation about the fact that like this might not be real.
Yeah. It's also funny because I just like a thought popped into my head when you said skin has pores. I struggle is probably the wrong word, but I have pores, like bigger pores. And my dermatologist was like, it's like a shoe size. Some people just have larger pores than others. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
I have something coming. I have a product coming. I'm gonna send it to you before it launches.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
But it was so funny because one day I like put my makeup on and I was kind of annoyed that like I could kind of see my pores. And I was like asking my fiance how my skin looks. And he was like, oh, it looks so good. Like I can see the little, and he was pointing at the pores. But in
And he
his
was saying
head,
that looks
but in
good.
he said it looks good because like, he doesn't understand that, ideally you don't want to see any pores. You want it to be total. But in his head, he was like, oh, it looks great. Like I see all your, I'm like, it's just so funny how like the whatever standard is kind of like taught to us,
It's the
like what the fuck is wrong with pores?
Yes, it's a socialization of, because you ask guys are always the best people to ask too because they just don't know anything. So you like ask them, like, no, it looks amazing. You're like, my wig is all the way back here. How does it look amazing? And they're like, no, it looks great. So
I'm obsessed. Okay, so you are CEO. You are Gen Z. How are you balancing business and just like personal life and like growing into yourself as a younger woman and like all of the things that come with that?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned like earlier this year, my mental health wasn't all the best. So like I'm gonna say that I don't always balance it well. There are like periods of my life where work is demanding a lot more of me. There is times where it's less, where I can like go on vacation. So I don't necessarily think that balance exists as a CEO, unfortunately, just because like everything is on you, right? If something bad happens, it's on you. If something good happens, luckily it's on you as well. I just like have learned how to like carve out things in my life. Like as a CEO, what I came to understand is that I can't be just like thrown every single time something happens. Like I have to be able to create a bubble of peace for myself. And I have to carve out like self care for myself. And before I just thought, oh, eventually something will change in my life and then like things will get better. And so I've had to learn how to practice really. And my therapist says that all the time, like self care is a practice, love is a practice. And so it's just a practice of figuring out how to create a routine that works for you. So for me, I don't take calls Mondays and Fridays. I actually don't usually work on Fridays. So like super excited to be doing this podcast with y'all.
Yes,
but like for me, usually it's like Fridays are a no-go because I need days to like not talk because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's meetings from when I wake up to like later in the day. Then I usually have like dinner meetings with people or gotta like talk to, it's just a lot of talking. And I'm such an extrovert, or at least I felt like I was before the pandemic and before I started topicals, but I spent so much time in isolation the 2 years before building topicals and then in COVID that I get tired really easily when
it's
I'm
exhausting.
like
Yeah.
yes, and like being animated. And while I love it, it's like it does drain me more. And so carving that out, I don't work on the weekends if I can help it. If there's like something really exciting or I'm really bored and I have like absolutely nothing to do and I'm rested, then I'll do a bit of work for like some side projects, but try my best not to do any work on the weekends. I try to go on a vacation at least once a quarter.
Nice.
Even if it's like a weekend trip, try to do something once a quarter. And then, yeah, just solid core has been really great, making sure I'm working out, drinking water. It's all these basic things, but it's just like these little things are you taking care of yourself. And for so long, even in the smallest things, I didn't take care of myself. And so just like carving it out, like you deserve the time away and the time for like self care.
Yeah. And I love what you said about self-care being a practice. Like I am in this space in my life where I just feel like I'm just like very slowly, but very slowly becoming better. Like just generally, like everything is just becoming better, but it's happening slowly.
Right.
But everything you're like practicing how to respond. You're practicing how to handle conflict. You're practicing how to, stand up for yourself at work. Like you're like all these like really, I feel like life is kind of like big old practice.
It is. We're so focused on perfection. Again,
Mm-hmm.
this is what topicals has taught me through the process of like skin. Skin is just like almost a small piece of what we do, but we always say this phrase that like skin, just like life, is like fluid and messy. And it's just
Mm.
like you can take what we're saying about topicals and take it to your larger life. It's just this idea of like we always feel like everything is like the big stage. Like every day we're like, trying for this perfection, when in reality every day is just about getting back up and doing it again, like trying again. If you fell down, getting back again. If it didn't work out, trying again. And that's like in love, that's in like your professional career, that's even with yourself. It's like every day is just another day to start again and try again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. And I bet it was the same in terms of like the formulas. Like, how many formulas did it take
Girl,
for us to get to the topicals that we buy at Sephora?
so if you're hip, you know that the first version of Faded smelled so bad. I mean, even now people still says it smells really bad. I will say
The
it
first
smelled
version
worse.
had a distinct smell. It did. It was
It
distinct.
smelled bad. And it wasn't supposed to. That's the thing about business that's so funny. It was not supposed to smell bad. We had done rounds and rounds and rounds of like testing, of like just the formulation. And when we scaled up to a larger batch, it wasn't enough of what we used to, it's called a deodorizer, to like cover the scent of the raw materials. And it came out and it was filled into the tubes and there was nothing we could do. So it was either cancel the launch or launch the sticky product. And I'm glad that we ended up doing, I remember almost like being on the brink of tears, like wanting to cry, but
Right.
I'm glad we did, because it's funny that now we're so synonymous with having a stinky product and people are like, oh, it smells. That's how I know it's working. Right.
Right.
So something
Oh my God, that is so funny.
that I thought was going to like ruin the company and just be terrible ended up being one of our best marketing hacks. So
Oh, that's
it's all in a day's
genius.
work. Right.
Okay, so you are a Black founder, which obviously we see that. But earlier, maybe it was last year. It was probably last year, and this wasn't a planned question, but it just popped up into my head. Miel was purchased. And then before that, what was the brand? And it's like feminine products.
Honeypot.
Honeypot. There was drama with that because she changed some of the products or some of the ingredients in her products, and people were really mad. And then I remember the founder of Amicole, Giada, was talking on her Instagram about how much pressure there is as a Black founder and how it seems like you almost get judged even harder. Do you ever feel that way, or do you have an opinion on any of those things? Because people were mad that Miel sold her company, which I'm like, that's kind of business. You grow it
This
and you sell it.
A lovely question. This is a lovely, lovely question. So I'm going to plug it with a new brand I just soft launched yesterday. I have a new brand called The Cost of Doing Business, or CODB, and it's like the media business resource guide. I get so many questions about business, and I wanted to kind of put it all in one place and do a lot of analysis of things like this, right? Because I think they're really fascinating. And I was actually reading an article this morning on Elle about the honeypot founder, B, and the Male Organics founder, Monique. And I think it's just, and I'm really good friends with Jada. She's like one of my like business besties. And I think that it's just really interesting, one, that our community doesn't understand business like in general, right? And I think what we've seen as success in business is like mom and pop shops that are basically, they continue to be open generation after generation,
Still
which
open.
that
Yeah.
is success. But we don't really understand how hard it is on those families to actually keep those businesses running when they don't have access to capital, when they don't have access to loans, just all the things that other communities do have access to. And we also don't realize that we could be creating more generational wealth if that business could franchise or it could scale. But we also have to understand that in order for it to do so, or for example, we get a lot of questions, come to the UK, come to Nigeria, come to China. You can't do that without capital. And a lot of times you can't do that without a big backer who already has the logistics set up in those countries, which means you have to be acquired by a company for that to happen. And so I think we just have to understand the cost of doing business, which is why I call it the cost of doing business, because there's a trade-off, right? Like, do we want this company to stay 100% Black owned, or do we want the company to actually be able to sell in, for my case, I'd love to sell in Nigeria, right? But very few companies can sell in Nigeria because there are larger conglomerates that really kind of control commerce and trade for beauty in these countries, right? And so it's like if you want to get in there, you either have to be acquired by one of these companies or have so much cash, which again, where are you getting this cash from? Unless it's from an investor who typically doesn't look like us. So again, it's a really deeply seated issue. You know, I hear people say all the time, like, oh, I really wish that there was a Black conglomerate. We can't do that if we don't have capital in our communities, which we get capital by exchanging equity, our business, creating leverage in that business, and then being able to sell it to someone else in exchange for cash. That's how we create these Black conglomerates. So we can't be upset when these Black owned brands sell, because that's how we are creating generational wealth that will then allow for some of these things that we're saying. We can't start at step 100 even though we're at step 1, you know?
Right.
And I think a business like Shea Moisture, which is actually where I started my career, I was in college. One of my best friends named Rochelle Dennis, her father owned Shea Moisture. She had watched her dad build brands and was like, let's build a brand for young women. This is before people were calling anything Gen Z. This is tween, you know, before people were saying Gen Z.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This is like,
and this is Shea Girl? I remember Shea Girl, of course.
Remember when we went to Essence and
Yes.
Yes,
I was wearing Shea Girl merch, had so much Shea Girl stuff. Loved. And we were younger at the time, so I saw myself in it for sure.
So
yeah.
Yes. Right. So 2019, we decided we were going to do this brand. It was Rochelle, myself, her sisters, her cousin, and a couple of her best friends. So 7 of us, young women, just like different skin conditions that we were really struggling with and wanted to create like a body care brand around. And so we launched a couple of different products in the 2 years that we were there. But while I was there, my senior year, Shea Moisture got acquired. The Sundial Brands umbrella of brands got acquired. And there was so much backlash about it, about them being a sellout, or, you know, there's all these things that go viral on TikTok and Twitter about like, this is really who owns Shea Moisture. And it's like the owner of Unilever. But what people don't understand is that all of your favorite brands, topicals included, can only exist because of Shea Moisture existed for a lot of reasons, but I'll name really 2. The first one is that because of Shea Moisture, now they fought for so many brands to be brought into stores. Before Shea Moisture, Black owned brands were not in Target. They were not in Sephora. Like people did not believe that there was a big enough customer pool. So like Shea Moisture really paved the way in that way. The second is that the Dennis family that own Shea Moisture, they have invested in all of your favorite. Like name a brand that is one of your favorites. They've either assisted, like given that person advice or given them access or an intro to someone, or they've directly put cash in to a business. Topicals exist because Shea Moisture exists. And so can we be upset at the founders of Shea Moisture? Can we be upset at these brands that sell their company when they're sacrificing? And it's not even sacrificial really, but they're selling their businesses to create 1,000 Shea Moistures, to create 1,000 IL organics. You know, so many people are so bogged down by like who owns what, but owning 100% of something that is worth $0 means nothing.
Right.
And we will eventually, hopefully in our community, get to a point where we can invest in our own brands. We can sell our brands to each other, but we're just not there yet. And so if you're not a part of the solution, you kind of just gotta sit with what's going on, unless you figure out how to create a $100 to $500 million holding company so that you can acquire these brands, because that's just the reality of it. And we have to also realize that everyone else, any race, ethnicity, sells their businesses. It's not just Black people. Like it is not just Black folks. Like your goal when you start a company and get investors is to either sell it or IPO it. Those are the only 2 options you have, or else the business is not going to grow. Yeah.
And I don't think there's any industry that Black people own. And I think that's probably the reason for the, I don't know, the better word, for people being upset, because it's like, oh, but you found so much success and then you just let it go. But we don't own any industry yet. And obviously there's like a historical reason for that. Exactly. So hopefully in the future we will eventually, after we find success in these companies and sell them and, as you said, make more capital. I think another question that people had, especially with the Miel acquisition, is the formula going to change? People always get really concerned about, is it going to sell and then now not work for my hair, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of things. One, as a business owner, why would you change a formula that got you to these millions of dollars of revenue? Like that doesn't make make sense. But on the other hand, I can understand why people believe that because, when these businesses get acquired, sometimes it's more about cost cutting measures than anything else, where they're
Right.
like, oh, well, like, let's switch out this ingredient with this one because it's cheaper. But I think that now acquirers have also learned that like those businesses die when they do things like that, right? And so
Right.
they actually have to let these businesses operate in by themselves. So to me, the Mael acquisition was really more of a partnership, and that's even how they've talked about it, where it's like now they have more capital, they have R&D to make better make products, and they can get into any market, any black market, so the Caribbean, Africa, like they can go
Mm.
anywhere with the products now because of the logistics. And so it's almost a little bit it like someone calls it like parasocial relationships, where people like believe that they know the brand, and because
Yeah.
they've supported the brand, that they should have a say in the brand. But in reality, like you don't really know the founders, you don't really like know the products. And also it's a bit selfish to say like, oh, I want the product to stay this specific way for me, because there are people in other countries who would love to have an access to Mile Organics, but they can't because before this, Mile didn't have the capital or resources to get to their countries. So we also
Yeah.
got to just start thinking more global, more business.
Bigger.
Again, this is the whole, my goal with
Yeah.
cost of doing business is like, how do we get culture to understand commerce so that we understand the real cost of doing business?
I love that. No, I think that's going to be so useful. I'm going to be checking out everything that you guys put out because we are very interested in these subjects.
Mhm.
What's your opinion on all of the celebrity beauty brands? Because I feel like every celebrity now has a brand, and it's almost, in my opinion, I'll tell you my opinion first.
Please.
It's like not fair because you get to sign off on it and use your celebrity, and it's a success just because you're a celeb.
Built-in fans, built-in buyers.
Yeah. I think it's like twofold, right? And I actually do think celebrity brands are really like interesting, and I think some people get them so right. And in that case, yeah, it is a bit unfair. Although they've worked for their fandom, so like, is it really unfair? Like it is for like small mom and pop or small brands, indie brands that just have regular people running the brand. But like if you can get it right with like who people believe you are, and you can launch a brand, you will be successful. Fenty Beauty, case in point, right? But then we have other brands that launch and it's like, we've never cared about your hair, girl. Why did you launch a hair care brand? Or we've never asked about your makeup routine or your skincare routine
Right.
or whatever else they're, selling to us, right? And I think those to me are such misses because there probably is something that you're known for that you could have leaned into. So I also want to see people do more tech stuff, especially Black women, like Black women celebrities, Black women in general, like even if as a regular person, like we need to lean not only into beauty, although that is a really big category for us, but we need to start leaning into other spaces because Black folks over index on media, technology. Like we see Black Twitter, we see how TikTok is being held up by Black creators, how Instagram is being held up by Black creators.
Clubhouse. Not
Yeah,
many, but everyone
right.
on there is Black.
Which is another
Girl.
one, like Kai Cenat whole situation right now where like they promised to give him all this money and they won't give it to him because I don't know whatever the reason is, but like he's the most followed streamer on Twitch. I think it's Twitch.
Wow.
So we have to also lean into these other industries because we are upholding all of these industries, like both with our dollars and with our time and attention.
What in thinking about running your own business, kind of what's your approach to leadership?
This
And
is
what if
such
your leadership style and developing that? What has that been like?
That's been such an interesting question. I think as a young leader, I think that I have been in situations where people definitely challenge me, right? Where maybe people don't believe that I can lead because of my age. Um, I think I've gotten it wrong sometimes, and like I'm one of those people who's never too big to say that like I've gotten it wrong, or I could have handled situations better, or I could have just like I didn't have all the full information to like make the best educated decision. But I think I've tried is what the number one thing I will say is like I've always tried, and I've always tried to move with empathy about situations. Um, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned is, and I tried to live by, is like death to your ego. Like you just have to realize that you don't know everything, and that as a leader, like you should be trying to be in service to your team because giving them the resources and the support they need is really going to help them get to where they need to go. I don't always have all the resources. So unfortunately, Topicals isn't always the best place for everyone to work because like there are like you do need certain qualities and certain things to be able to be successful just because like we're a small business. So it's like I can't offer like the highest salaries in the world, right? I can't offer like all the resources that maybe like a Facebook offers, but what we can offer, we do try to offer those things. And I think always just having a spirit of like empathy and a spirit of just like open conversation. I'm so proud of the team that we have. I'm proud of like every person who's worked and touched topicals, like regardless if they're there or not, because at one point they were influential enough to make an impact on the brand. And so I feel so fortunate to have like passed cross with so many women, so many people who've made this brand a success. And I'm excited, one, to support people on my team or who've now left topicals or no longer at topicals to like continue what they want to do because that's the opportunity Shea Moisture gave me. They really pushed me to like want to believe in myself. They gave me the resources to understand business and then allowed me to launch topicals and other things that I've launched. And so I'd hope that people who work at topicals or have worked with us in the past feel that their experience at topicals taught them enough for them to take the leap.
I love that. You have such a beautiful
That's beautiful.
energy.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Truly.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. I wish you like all the success with both topicals and what is the media company you're launching?
It's called Cost of Doing Business or
Co-
CODB for short.
Cost of Doing Business. Yeah, I'm really excited for you and everything that's to come. And
Big things.
I don't know. I think that's a beautiful
Bigger
place
and
to
bigger
wrap.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Thank
so
you.
too.
Thank you. I feel so glad and honored to have been on the pod and to be in the group chat. It has been fun. Thanks so
Yes.
much for having me.
Yes.
Of course. Thank
And
you
come
for
back
being
anytime.
here.
What would you do?
So I was actually on my favorite app today. I won't name it. And someone on in the room was talking about how when they were younger, you know, they're in the music industry, and when they were younger, they only dated married men or men in relationships because they didn't really have time to fully commit to a relationship. And so they could only really have like a piece of a man. Um, and I just was like flabbergasted that someone would openly say that. So I wonder, what would you do if a friend said that their preference was to date married or in relationship men?
I feel like a person that says something like that has other red flags about their personality, and I'm sure I would have been seeing a lot of other things about them that would have made me give them the chop early on. I've said this many times on the show. I met this girl who said that she dates married men exclusively and that she and her friend, like not her friends, oh my God, she and these men's wives are uh, joint account holders of these men. They are equal shareholders. I was like, what?
So did you cut her off?
No. I met her out one night with another
Okay.
friend of mine, and she was friends with my friend. And I was looking at my friend like, girl, you friends with this girl? That's crazy. You got a whole man. I don't know. It would just make me not, I would not trust her. I would not. Nope. Mm-mm. Nope.
Yeah. And when I was said I was flabbergasted, that was the first thing that came up. Like, oh, are you having PTSD from your own experiences with cheating? And it's like, not even that. It's like a moral thing for me. Like, I get it if not I get it, but I could be more understanding of it if it just happened accidentally and you fell in love with someone and I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But like to say that you intentionally want to date men that have other women already because it takes up less of your time is ridiculous and selfish and self-absorbed, and I'm not into it.
Yeah,
For
no,
me.
I think that's nuts. I don't believe anybody that says that either. Like,
Yeah.
really? That's what you want? Is what you prefer? For real?
Right. There's something deeper there.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Olamide for joining us. And also I just wanted to quickly shout out, if you are in Los Angeles, a fellow New Yorker has opened up a restaurant. So you might have seen the New York chopped cheese truck all over LA. He has a physical space and it's opening up May 6th. So yeah, I'm excited. Get your chopped cheese. I'm gonna be there. I'm very excited. Love seeing New Yorkers do big things. It's actually, what's that place everyone goes to in the Lower East Side? The Caribbean.
It's the guy from whatchamacallit, right? Last Lap?
One of the guys is the partner. Yeah, one of the guys is the
Yes.
partner. So it's gonna be great, like a nice New York hub in LA. So I'm excited. Thank you as always for listening. We love you so much. Follow us on all platforms. We are Black Girls Texting on Geneva, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. We're different. We're Black Girls Text 1. And also you should subscribe to our newsletter because it's fire. It comes out every month. Love you for listening. Thank you. Share, subscribe, comment. Love. Bye.
Bye.